Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking on a massive, kind of invisible force that literally dictates so much of our daily lives. We are demystifying data, analytics, and visualization. Have you ever wondered how raw, completely meaningless numbers somehow get magically transformed into the actual decisions that run our modern world? Well, you are definitely in the right place because we're going to break the whole thing down step by step. Okay, let's dive into this with a really quick thought experiment. Think about your smartphone right now. How many times today have you checked your battery percentage? Probably a lot, right? But ask yourself this, why don't you ever check the battery's voltage? It's a pretty stark contrast when you think about it. Battery voltage, well, that's just raw data. It's technically accurate, sure, but it is incredibly difficult for our brains to just parse on the fly. Battery percentage, on the other hand, is processed information. It's clean, it's easy to understand, and we grasp it instantly. And this basically proves that our brains inherently crave the exact thing that data analytics provides. We don't want raw facts. We want the story behind them. So, to get us to that story, here is our roadmap for today. We'll move from data to information, look at the analytics engine, explore the power of visualization, walk through the analytics workflow, and finish up with data in the real world. All right, kicking things off with part 1, from data to information. So data is simply a collection of raw facts, observations, or measurements. And it comes in a bunch of different flavors. We've got numerical data, like temperature or daily sales. We've got categorical data, like someone's blood group. There's date and time data, obviously. But listen, it is not just boring spreadsheets. Think about text data, like product reviews on a website. And then there's media data. When you're scrolling through an app like Instagram, you aren't just consuming numbers. That platform relies heavily on analyzing massive amounts of image, video, and audio data. But let's think about what happens when data is just left unprocessed. Imagine looking at a raw list of student test marks, 85, 65, 90, 45. Okay, so by themselves, these facts don't really mean much, do they? They don't actually tell us a story about how the class is performing overall. But apply just a little bit of basic analysis and bam, suddenly we have extracted information. We know the class average is 74, the highest mark is a 90, the lowest is a 45, and hey, we have an 80% pass percentage. We've completely transformed those raw, unhelpful numbers into actual, useful information that tells a super clear story about that classroom. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate life cycle of data. It starts as data, like a thermometer reading of 40 degrees Celsius. That gets processed into information. Wow, it is very hot out. That information translates into knowledge. There's a serious risk of dehydration, which ultimately leads to a decision. You grab a bottle of water before you walk out the door. That single raw number directly informed a critical human decision. Which brings us nicely to section 2, the analytics engine. How do we build a system that makes those decisions at a massive scale? We do it through data analytics. It's essentially the ultimate filtering process, collecting, cleaning, organizing, and interpreting data to support decision-making. To ground this a bit, think about Amazon or Netflix. Amazon takes your raw search history, your ratings, the time you spend on pages, runs it through this exact engine, and boom, they recommend the absolute perfect product. Netflix looks at what you watched, exactly when you paused it, and suddenly they know exactly what movie you want to watch tonight. Now, this analytics engine essentially operates in 4 different modes, answering 4 distinct questions. Let's use a hospital as an example. First, there's descriptive analytics. What happened? Okay, how many patients came in last month? Then, diagnostic analytics. Why did it happen? Well, patient numbers increased because it's flu season. Next is predictive analytics. What will happen? Based on these trends, how many patients are we going to have next month? And finally, the absolute holy grail, prescriptive analytics. What should we do about it? We need to increase staffing next month to handle that predicted patient load. Let's move to section 3 and see how this builds into the real visual climax of our explainer, the power of visualization. Okay, I have a quick challenge for you. Imagine staring at a table of monthly sales numbers from January to May, just 5 rows of text. Can you immediately, in a split second, identify the trend and tell me exactly how well the business is doing? It takes your brain a few moments of processing to compare all those numbers, doesn't it? Now imagine if that was a spreadsheet with 20,000 rows. Total nightmare, right? Instant headache. But present that exact same data as a bar chart. And, immediate relief, right? You instantly see a clear, increasing upward trend from January to May. The human brain just processes visuals remarkably faster than text. Visualization, whether you're talking about a bar chart, a line chart, a pie chart, or a heat map, is absolutely vital because it makes patterns obvious. Outliers become visible instantly. It's the graphical representation that bridges the gap between complex, messy analysis and actual human understanding.
So how do the pros actually do this? Let's hit section 4, the analytics workflow.
Here is the gold standard, step-by-step process professionals use to get to that beautiful, easy-to-read visualization. First, you collect data from sensors or websites or databases. But step 2 is where the magic really happens, and it's so important. You must clean the data. You got to remove duplicates, fix spelling errors, fill in missing values because, listen, if you analyze garbage, you're going to get garbage results. Only after it's clean do you explore the data, analyze it using statistics, visualize it with dashboards, and finally, step 6, make decisions.
So, what does step 6 actually look like out in the wild? Let's wrap up with section 5, data in the real world.
This workflow is quite literally running modern industry. In healthcare, it's powering patient monitoring and predicting disease outbreaks before they even happen. In agriculture, tools like Phytolens AI are analyzing images of plant diseases to protect crops, while other data models are forecasting weather and yields. In finance, this stuff is constantly running in the background to detect credit card fraud the very second it occurs. And hey, right in your pocket, apps like Swiggy are analyzing data to give you the perfect restaurant recommendation, while Google Maps is crunching millions of data points to route you right around that traffic jam.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and I want to leave you with a little homework directly inspired by our source material. Data analytics is everywhere. It is operating silently in the background of your life every single day. So your mission today, can you spot 3 hidden examples of data analytics powering your own daily routine? Start paying attention to your apps, your shopping habits, the recommendations you get. The data is out there, and it's telling a story. You just have to know how to look at it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.